For the record, your name and just give me a brief summary of yourself.
My visit to TT, Trinidad and Tobago, is part of my global research on the ground, not just by watching a video or watching a documentary or reading a book or something like that. And I want to understand humanity in its totality. That's why I on a global tour, not just in one country, one culture, one people, but in all of them. The Caribbean is part of humanity, so I cannot just ignore the Caribbean and talk about all other regions. And that's my motivation.
I see. One thing I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you would have known this, but Trinidad and Tobago, I think we exceed the Caribbean in terms of the number of crimes per capita.
Yes.
Last year, I think we had the second highest murder toll, which was 539 people killed, and we also had a number of other non-violent offences, drug trafficking and so on. When you look at small island developing states like Trinidad and Tobago and you see things like this, what is the interpretation from someone with your background?
Yes and no. I have been in so many countries, and I know that criminalities have been with us throughout human history. I think that it's very misleading for you to focus on certain crimes and look at the data, see data propaganda again. You look at the data and you say, okay, there are so many more crimes here in Trinidad. Okay, that may be true, but how about some other forms of data, some other forms of crimes? In the US, for example, the US may not have so many petty crimes that you have, but in the US, there are also many other crimes. And all these politicians, by the way, and many of them are very corrupt too, but the media don't talk too much about that. So how do you interpret, you talk about interpretation, how do you label something as a crime? And some of the things are not crimes. Look at the US. Trump is impeached. You know that.
Yes.
Now, for his enemy, that is a crime. For his supporters, that's not a crime. In fact, he's serving the US national interest by fighting against corruption. You see, it's politics, interpretation of the data. So I'm very skeptical about all this data that you are throwing at me and some other people too. I'm not denying that it did not happen. I'm just saying that in terms of interpretation, in terms of understanding the perspective, things are not what you have in mind now. Does it mean that you support that? No, I'm not saying that you should support that. But I'm just saying that put things in the proper perspective.
I understand.
Look at Haiti, your neighbor. It's even worse than TT. Look at all this drug trafficking in the US, which you may not have as much by comparison. But the drug trafficking market in the US is the largest in the world. Now, when you compare with something like that, it sounds like a TT is just a small potato by comparison. Look at crimes. Let's say major powers, they invade other countries, bomb other countries. Those are war crimes. But the major powers, because they dominate international politics and the international tribunals, they have never been prosecuted. They have not been arrested, those people in charge. And yet you spend all this time talking about how bad, how things are, the criminals, the crimes like this. This is not comparative. You understand me? So I think that, you see, that this is a question of interpretation again, that you're just asking. I think that's a good question to ask, but I think that you have to look things from the proper perspective. Each country, by the way, they often have certain crimes. I have been in more than 120 countries, or 10 countries by now, and by the end of the tour, maybe more than 130 and 40. And everywhere I go, I see that each country, each society has certain crimes that they have a lot, but they don't have too much on some other crimes. You go to country B, you will see that they have a lot of crimes on B, but they don't have much on C.
Yeah.
So if you look only at C or B, then you give you the impression that that country is very, very bad because they have so many crimes on B. But if you look at C, D, E, F, G, oh, they don't have too many. And all of a sudden you sit and say, oh, I'm not that bad after all. You understand me? Interpretation, how do you understand the totality? How do you value that or do not value that? Calling that a crime is also a value judgment. And that's why criminals and society have been fighting with each other. Look, smoking marijuana is a crime in the US, right? Okay. because you call it a crime. You treat it as a crime. What if tomorrow they legalize marijuana? Will those people be considered as criminals anymore? And all of a sudden by tomorrow, the crimes they go down by more than 100, 200, whatever percent there might be. And all of a sudden, there are not too many crimes anymore. So you see that it's politics of labeling, politics of treating certain people as criminals or not. And then you become sad or you become happy when there are too many or too few of them. Interpretation again, value judgment.
With that in mind, I don't think I have any more questions. Is there anything